On February 7th, 2026, the world of rock music didn't explode into chaos. It went quiet. No dramatic headlines at first, no flashing alerts, just a pause, the kind that settles in your chest before you even know why. Brad Arnold, the unmistakable voice of Three Doors Down, was gone. For nearly 30 years, that voice had been a constant. It was the sound of resilience, the sound of someone admitting weakness without ever sounding defeated. He sang about being Superman, not because he felt invincible, but because he knew what it meant to feel fragile and still stand up. And now, the man who gave so many people strength had taken his final bow. Brad Arnold wasn't just a rock frontman. He was a survivor, a man who outlasted an industry that devours its own. Behind the sold-out tours, the platinum records, and the radio anthems, Brad was carrying a burden few people ever saw, a battle he chose to fight quietly, even as time began slipping away. This is not just the story of a rock star. This is the story of a man who kept giving, even when his own body was running out. For millions of fans, the song "It's Not My Time" became more than music. It was something people clung to in hospital rooms, during sleepless nights, and in moments when hope felt thin. There's a cruel irony in knowing that the man who sang those words with such conviction was forced to confront his own mortality far sooner than anyone imagined. At just 47 years old, Brad Arnold passed away. What he left behind is a legacy both triumphant and heartbreaking. While fans remember the smile under the stage lights, few knew that during the final year of his life, Brad was quietly fighting an aggressive form of kidney cancer. He didn't want sympathy. He didn't want attention. He only wanted to sing. But to understand how heavy that final year truly was, we have to go back to the beginning, long before hospital rooms and whispered diagnoses. Before the silence, there was noise. Before the pain, there was lightning. The story doesn't begin in Los Angeles or New York. It begins in Escatawpa, Mississippi, inside a high school classroom thick with humidity and boredom. A teenage Brad Arnold sat at his desk during algebra class, not solving equations, but writing lyrics. He wasn't thinking about fame. He was writing about a superhero who was breaking down, a character who looked strong but felt anything but. That song was Kryptonite. When the year 2000 arrived, music was changing. Grunge was fading, pop felt artificial, and audiences were desperate for something real. Brad Arnold and his friends delivered exactly that. Their debut album, The Better Life, didn't slowly climb the charts. It detonated. Kryptonite became unavoidable. It poured out of car radios, dorm rooms, and late-night drives. People didn't just hear it, they recognized themselves in it. Brad wasn't pretending to be untouchable. He was admitting weakness out loud, and somehow that made everyone else feel stronger. And it didn't stop there. Songs like Loser and Duck and Run proved this wasn't luck. Brad had a rare gift, the ability to turn insecurity into something empowering. He wasn't flashy. He didn't wear costumes. He stood on stage in a t-shirt, gripping the mic, singing like every word mattered because it did. The Better Life sold over 6 million copies. Three Doors Down became the sound of the early 2000s. When they followed it with Away from the Sun in 2002, featuring the heartbreaking ballad Here Without You, Brad proved he could make the world cry just as easily as he could make it scream. International tours followed. They played for troops overseas. Their music became comfort for people far from home. From the outside, it looked like a perfect dream, and for a while, it was. But fame has a way of distorting reality. The transition from small-town life to global superstardom is violent. Endless touring, crushing expectations, isolation disguised as success. Brad was the frontman. The spotlight burned hottest on him. And when the cheers faded each night, the silence grew louder. The cracks were invisible to fans, but they were there. For Three Doors Down, success came with a price that had nothing to do with money. it was paid in loss. The first devastating blow came with guitarist Matt Roberts. He wasn't just a bandmate, he was Brad's childhood friend, a brother. Years of physical pain and personal struggles forced Matt out of the band. Then, in 2016, the news arrived that shattered Brad completely. Matt Roberts had died from an overdose alone in a hotel room. The silence after that loss was unbearable. Then came Todd Harrell. Addiction spiraled into tragedy, ending in a fatal decision and a prison sentence that erased his freedom. The original trio that had conquered the world was gone. Brad Arnold was the last one standing. He carried the name, the expectations, the questions no one could answer, the quiet fear that he might be next. For years, Brad fought his own private battle with alcohol. He became what the industry calls a functioning alcoholic, someone who could still perform while slowly unraveling. He drank to dull the physical pain. He drank to quiet the ghosts of his friends. He drank because being the good guy of rock felt like an armor he could never remove. But unlike so many before him, Brad chose to fight back. He got sober. He reclaimed his life. He leaned into faith. He became a different kind of rock star, one who spoke openly about redemption and survival. For nearly a decade, it seemed like he had beaten the curse that haunted the band. Then, in early 2025, the silence returned. Tour dates quietly disappeared, social media went dark, rumors exploded, relapse, burnout, collapse. Same is cruel. Silence is always interpreted as failure. But the truth was far worse. Behind closed doors, Brad Arnold was fighting for his life. In January 2025, doctors diagnosed him with stage 4 clear cell renal cell carcinoma, aggressive kidney cancer that had already spread to his lungs. And Brad made a decision that defined his final year. He kept it secret, not out of denial, out of love. He didn't want pity. He didn't want sympathy tickets. He didn't want fans to watch him fade. By day, he was enduring treatment. By night, he was still Brad Arnold, singing, smiling, pretending everything was fine. Until pretending became impossible. In May 2025, Brad broke his silence in a simple video message. No stage, no spectacle. Just honesty. He named the disease. He acknowledged the reality. And then he did something extraordinary. He said, "I have no fear." He spoke about faith, about peace, about acceptance. The man who once sang, "It's not my time," had come to terms with the idea that maybe it was. In his final months, Brad returned to writing. Not for radio, not for charts, just for himself. One lyric, scribbled while working outside, captured everything he had become. I write my prayers in a flower bed, hands in dirt, sky overhead. If tomorrow never calls my name, I loved this life. I played the game. On February 7th, 2026, Brad Arnold passed away. The music stopped, but the echo didn't. His story isn't just about rock stardom. It's about dignity, about facing the end without fear, about choosing faith over fame. The teenager who wrote Kryptonite in math class proved that strength isn't being unbreakable, it's standing tall even when you're fragile. Brad Arnold didn't want us to mourn the sickness. He wanted us to celebrate the life. And in doing so, he became something greater than a rock star. He became proof that even when the body fails, the human spirit doesn't have to. The Superman took his final flight, not away from the sun, but straight into it.